Hi. Welcome to Glass Break, a new series for all topics related to glass. Take a break from the busy day and join us as we watch amazing art come to life.
Hi everyone, welcome to Glass Break. This week we're going to take a look at some work by visiting artist Fritz Dreisbach. On the left side of the screen, we have an example of today's piece. And to learn more about the project, we're going to hear from Fritz himself.
This is a series of glasses that I've been doing for the last 5 years that we call Cameo Cut Glass. So we came here a year and 3 months ago and blew cups, or blanks I call them, that have colors on the outside and clear on the inside. And then I took them to the engraving machine. I carved through each color down to the color that's below it and make a pattern. These are not finished at this stage. Then I bring them here. We're going to put glass inside the bubble and pick it up and reheat it and blow it out. But this color that's on the outside of this bubble will also be on the outside of the final piece. You can make any shape you want after you've got it all attached. And here are some, this is a cup and a finished piece.
To get started, here's a look at the Cameo engraved cup that Fritz worked so diligently to create. They're going to be stuffing that cup. So Bennett's collected some glass. They've got a bubble started. And he's just doing a little bit of shaping with that pad there.
Keep your eye on the big screen.
Everyone's getting ready. This is one of the funnest parts of the demonstration and just the action on the floor in general. Here we go. They're stuffing a color cup, or in this case, a Cameo engraved color cup. And this next part's pretty awesome as well. They take the piece while it's still fresh and hot, and they roll it across the paper to do a pyrograph transfer of the pattern. They do this mostly for fun.
Great.
Done?
Up high,
This is how Fritz
way up at the
wallpapers
top of
his
the
house.
paper.
I'm just kidding, of course I don't know how he actually wallpapers his house, or if he's even a wallpaper fan, but I can tell you, I wouldn't mind putting that on my wall.
Yeah.
That's really cool looking. So yeah, it's mostly just a fun experiment, but it's also a nice way to keep a small record of the pattern before it gets blown into its final form. They really want to work that cup into the bubble, so they roll it back and forth on this steel table, and they call this steel table the marver, or the marver table. Marvering the glass. It comes from the Italian word for marvelous, and also it's because the tables they used to use were made out of marble. So it all kind of makes a fun bit of sense when you tie it all together. You got this really fun, fantastic, marvelous glass that used to roll back and forth on these huge slabs of marble. So it's kind of like this double marvelous marble metaphor. We can see they've worked the end of the cup a little bit more into the bubble, and now he's starting to go in with some smoothing pads, and they're starting to add air and just smooth out the shape. They'll follow a process of heating, expanding, shaping, and smoothing. And smoothing pad in particular is a graphite felt pad. Either that or it's a wet newspaper koozie, meaning there's a pad of wet newspaper inside a Kevlar or graphite sleeve of some kind. This is pretty cool because that's not smoke coming off of there, it's actually steam. And the creation of that steam is part of what helps that tool work so well. It's essentially a tiny bed of steam for the piece to roll around in to help smooth out little edges and many times kind of cool certain areas so certain spots become stiffer while allowing other parts to expand more. In Ben's hand we see a tool called jacks, and he's going to take those and perform a process that's called cutting in a jack line. And what they do is they go in and they constrict the glass, creating an indention or a crease, and they're going to use that spot to help them transfer the piece later on in the process. So they've kind of pressed into the middle, beginning to create sort of a hip. They'll take it into the glory hole, and they do this back and forth many, many times. It's very critical to keep the glass at a working temperature, so they're constantly reheating the glass in this furnace, which is called the glory hole. And if you're wondering about the name, the best I've heard, it's like when you look up in the clouds and there's the sun peeking through, and it's kind of like that wah moment. That's like a glory hole. Or also, I like to think of it like you got the marver that makes it marvelous, you got the glory hole that makes it glorious. And this is a good opportunity to point out what I mentioned earlier. Here's the wet newspaper. It's literally just folded up newspaper soaked in water. But sitting on the bench, we see a graphite pad. Both items kind of achieve the same effect. Now we're watching the team drop a foot. They're dropping a large solid blob of glass, and they're going to kind of shape that into more of a disc, and it'll act as a foot or something that the vase can stand on when it sits on the table. They'll go in, help shape the side with the jacks, press on the bottom to make it flat with the graphite paddle. Had to take a close look there. Sometimes it's made of wood. With the foot shaped up how they like, it's time to transfer the piece to another pipe. This pipe is called a punny. It's very similar to the blowpipe, except it's not hollow. Air can't travel through this one. But they want to work on the top, so what they'll do is they'll drip water into the jack line they created earlier. And that'll allow a small crack to form in that line. They'll tap and break the piece free. We can see the top of the piece is pretty thick and the hole's quite narrow. So they're going to want to make that opening bigger, make the end thinner. They use a tool called the parchopes, and they insert inside the glass and begin to stretch and elongate until it reaches a more appropriate thickness. Again, some last looks at that wonderful pattern being backlit by the fire.
It's going to stand up. And we go left side of number one.
This piece is getting close to done. One of the glass blowers has gotten ready with the Kevlar suit and gloves. I'd like to personally thank you for tuning in, checking out today's episode. A little less action than normal, but it gave us a good chance to talk about some of the smoothing pads and other smaller elements that occasionally we don't have much time to go into. That's awesome. Today's team was led by Ben Cobb, assisted by Sarah Gilbert, Courtney Branham, and Casey J. Swedinsky. And of course, the visiting artist himself, the actual designer, the brains behind the idea, Fritz Dreisbach. He's played a very important role in glass history, especially in this local part of Washington. He's very dear to us, and it was wonderful having him here.
They're nice and pink when they're
We
supposed
thank you for joining us. Please tune in again next week. Have a wonderful day.